The next few verses constitute a little sequence. The first one is about mind with a capital M. The next one's about discrimination. Discrimination is that process by which we construct our stories of reality. And the third verse pursues this into the story of a reality perceived by the senses. The Christians have had a problem explaining why a God of love allows such dreadful suffering in the world. There's a similar problem for Buddhists, or at least for certain Buddhists. The assumption is that awareness is essentially pure. So why does it get lost? So why does this purity get clouded? Why does it get lost in ignorance and therefore in suffering? And these three verses explore this. So, verse 459, the Citta, discrimination, thought construction, manas, Vijnana, the Alaya, all that which sets the triple world in motion are synonyms of mind. There's a few technical terms here, and if this is the first video in this series that you've looked at, then you're going to be a little bit lost. I'm going to assume that you've actually got some familiarity with Citta, Manas, Vijnana and the Alaya, because they've come up often enough, and there are videos devoted to these topics. You can check out video 75 if this is new to you. But I will say something about them anyway. So even if you're not familiar with these terms, it still might be useful to stick with this verse. So the Citta, in this context, is mind with a capital M, which is what this verse is about. Discrimination, thought constructions, and so on are described as synonyms of mind. They set the triple world in motion. And the triple world is the world of ignorance, of delusion, of suffering. So it's quite unusual to say that all of these things are synonyms of mind. Mind with a capital M is what we're looking for, is what we're endeavouring to turn the attention to as much as possible. In other words, enlightenment. So how can enlightenment set the triple world in motion? How can enlightenment set the world of suffering in motion? Well, there's two things to consider here, or to appreciate. One is that mind with a capital M, or enlightenment even, is the source of infinite potential creativity. It's a stream or a vast river of experiencing. That's what mind is. Every moment there is something going on, even in your sleep. When you're dreaming, there's something going on. We might say there are periods of unconsciousness, but it might be best just to describe them as periods of forgetfulness. Because as long as we're aware, there is something going on. And such is the power of this creativity, such is the power of this river, this ocean of experiencing, that it gets sucked into itself. It believes in the reality of what it's experiencing. This is the nature of consciousness. Consciousness believes in the reality of what it's experiencing. It could be a dream, could be the waking state, could be a mirage, it could be an hallucination, it could be a magician's illusion, it could be a state of hypnosis. Consciousness believes at the point of experiencing in the reality of what is going on. At some point it will wake up from that and realize it wasn't real. But this is the power of consciousness, sometimes described as Maya. The belief in the reality of what is apparently going on. So, this is why we can say that mind, or enlightenment, sets the triple world in motion. And it's the job of the enlightenment practitioner to realize this and come back once again to mind itself, and not to be taken in by the power of mind. And one of the ways we do this is to understand the process by which mind itself gets hooked into what is apparently going on. In other words, how we get hooked into delusion, ignorance and suffering. So there's Citta. Back to the verse, there's Citta. Then there's discrimination. Now this word is a standard English word, but in this context it has an awful lot of power. I've mentioned that the ocean of experiencing that is going on. That's how we can describe what is going on. There's an ocean of experiencing. There's stuff going on. There's never nothing going on. Never nothing. We can hypothesize nothing, but there's never nothing going on. There's the ocean of experiencing. I sometimes call it the stream or the field of experiencing. But ocean's quite good because you can get swept up in the ocean in its various riptides. And the way we get sucked into it, the way awareness gets sucked into it, is by this process of discrimination. We identify things, we identify entities, we identify thoughts, we identify feelings. And then off we go. Thought construction. There are thought constructions. We have ideas about reality, about what is going on, about how things work. We start seeing patterns between between the things that we discriminate. And we start living our life through these patterns, these thought constructions. These thought constructions can be to do with hierarchy, social hierarchy. Who's the top dog? Who's the underdog? Where do I fit in with this? How do I survive in this context? This is the lifestyle I have. Can I change it? Can I make it better? These are my dependents, or I'm dependent on this person. How does it all work? So there's a whole dynamic here which we start entering into. This becomes our reality, doesn't it? It's described here as manas. Manas is mind with a small m. Mind is the one that's doing all the thinking, all the patterns. It's actually mind which is turned away from Citta. It's caught up in what's sometimes described as the outflows. It's the attention which is checking things out. It's doing all these discriminations, forming these patterns, seeing how things work. And it's totally caught up in that now. This is our life. This is manas. This is mind, which is turned away from pure awareness. It's now turned towards what's called here Vijnana. And Vijnana is the sense consciousness, is consciousness of seeing things, of hearing things, and so on. This is the world that our mind is turned to. We start assuming that there's a reality behind what we call the senses. I see a cup. My thought processes see the whole pattern by which this cup, or understand the pattern by which this cup came into being. It was once earth, it was gathered by the potter of the factory, made into this cup, painted, sold in a shop, and now I've got coffee in it. That's Vijnana. I see this cup, I feel this cup, I taste its contents, I smell its contents, and I can hear myself drinking it. This is the world of manas, the world of Vijnana. This is the world that is very hard to deny. It's very hard to wake up from, but if you're an enlightenment practitioner, you have woken up from it, and you're stepping back from all of that, back to Citta once again. And this list concludes with Alaya, which is sometimes used as a synonym for Citta. But Alaya is that tendency within the great ocean of experiencing to get sucked into itself. Alaya is sometimes described as the store consciousness. It's usually described in terms of notions of karma and so on. Good karma creates good seeds and bad karma creates bad seeds, but there's no need for any of that. It just represents the infinite potential of the Citta, the infinite potential of awareness, the infinite potential of the ocean of experiencing. So I talk about the ocean, and within the ocean there are these riptides or vortices, whirlpools sucking us down. But we can come back out into the ocean. And within the ocean itself, the more you do that, the more you learn to navigate the riptides and the whirlpools, the more you can enjoy the vast expanse of the ocean of Citta, of mind itself. But within that ocean, there's always the possibility that you can once again get sucked down into the cycle of discrimination, thought construction, manas and Vijnana. I'll explore the next verse in the next video.